Welcome to Crumb Tube.
Welcome to Crumb Tube.
We'll sap up all of those, lick up those crumbs. All the right-wing trolls commenting on crumbs. Fucking weirdos. Hello, and welcome to America the Conversation. We're back, and it's a new year, and the world is still on fire. I am your host, Tim Philippi, and with me, as always, is my other host, Tim. Not Tim. You're not Tim. Who are you? Who are you, Andrew?
My name is Andrew Kent Turner.
My brain has been rotted over the past year.
Queen of the Seven Kingdoms. I was thrown off because we're not, of course, audience, you're hearing this in the new year, but we're not recording it in the new year yet.
Truth.
It's mid-December. But I immediately was like, wait, it's the new year, and every bit of anxiety and panic set in. Like, did I sleep like some sort of German fairy tale?
We
3 weeks
didn't
and wake
prepare. We did not prepare for what's about to happen, what we're about to talk about. Like, the fascism is already setting in. Don't cancel us, great. YouTube. We just said the word fascist or propaganda. They don't like those words, apparently, so that's not fun. But they love when the right wing puts it all out. We should put like a
30-second intro into it, so we just add a buffer of 30 seconds where we know we're not going to say any dirty words that YouTube doesn't like.
I'll just keep the theme extra long or something because, I like the theme. You need
to hire someone to animate us, doing fun things.
Let's talk afterwards. I do need to talk to you about something along those lines. But for now, living in the real world and not the animation world, the world is actively about to burn down because one certain party seems to win every goddamn election that there is. And this time around, and we'll mention that at the end, spoiler alert, they did not win much this past midterm. Wait, I guess it was 2023. So it was a weird midterm election thing where lots of different things were on ballots, like abortion and legalization of cannabis, things like that. Governors flipping certain senates, like in Virginia. So they didn't necessarily win this time or in 2022, but Republicans do win all of the time. And we're going to talk about why. You saw it in the title. Surprise. So just to start out, in 2022, only 68% of voters from 2020 voted. Meaning, traditionally most people don't vote in the the elections anyways, in the midterms as it is. But this is extra low. And what's the one party, Andrew? Let's see if you can get this trivia right. What's the one party that always shows up to primaries in any sort of election ever?
The Whigs.
The Whigs stopped being a party in the 1800s. Try again.
Fuck, I always forget that. That's right.
They're basically the Whigs, though.
The Sandinistas.
The Sandinistas. No. One more try. It's not the Democrats. It's not the Libertarians. It's not the Constitution Party. It's not the Green Party. It's not the...
the Irish Republican Army.
Take out the Irish part and the last two. I mean, Army, you can add that to the Republic. The MAGA Army.
Oh, they're the worst kind of Republicans.
Yeah.
That's the ones we're talking about?
The Republicans come out all of the time. They have such a higher turnout. With Trump voters in this last 2022 election showed up, 71% of the voters that showed up were somehow Trump voters, and Biden voters were 67%. Now, we're going to do an episode later on in the year about the rise of the independent voter because a lot of people are kind of shifting more towards quote-unquote independence. I mean, Andrew and I technically would fall into that independent voter category, which is like, it's like saying indie band. I was like, what does that even mean? That could mean a slew of things. But it's, it's everything from a libertarian to a progressive to what's the stupid ass party that Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin are doing, the no labels. It's those people. Like it's
the grift party.
The grifter party, yeah. The Peter Grift
Wake up and grift.
Party.
It's a new day. Grift harder. And Andrew Yang's gonna join any second.
Oh my God, yeah. Andrew Yang should pop right in. That's made for him. I'm surprised he didn't make the party.
Labels, like empty suit if I've ever seen one.
Jesus
sure,
Lord. Yeah. Yeah. So, anything from communist to no labels to libertarian fall under the no labels, it falls under the independent crowd, as it were. And that is something that is probably going to change the course of this election, because most people do not like either side, but the majority still do like the Republicans. The favorability is a little bit higher than the Democrats. A little bit, at least according to one of the polls that I'm quoting here. Like, there's a lot of different polls that are going to come out. Hell, this poll is like 4 months old as it is, and this is being released in January. So
their favorability with their people.
Yes,
right?
favorability with their people, but it's like 58%. Which one was it?
Are favorable of Republicans. It means that more Republicans are happy with what their party is doing than Democrats are happy with what their party is doing.
Sure,
right?
Exactly, yeah.
So I would say a majority of Americans lean center left. Like that would be.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Like a majority of Americans lean center left, and a lot of them don't show up to vote. But
that's the biggest problem, though. Like, it's the hyper right wing. They show up. Like the hyper progressives, they show up. Like the fringes show up.
I think that those numbers show that. Well, I think the fringes of the right show up. The fringe of the left doesn't show up. Like, what happens is that Republicans give their base what they want regularly, so their base keeps showing up to vote for them and is approving of what they do, which is obstruction and like degradation to dogmatic policy from the past. And since they deliver on that, their people approve of it and they show up to vote for them. And Democrats, their best promise so far has been, we're not like the Republicans, and we'll do less war, and we like gay people, and we'll get rid of your student loans. And then they haven't delivered on anything. Like, they didn't deliver on anything that they promised.
No,
like,
not a bit.
Joe Biden is drilling more than Obama did. Like, we haven't
bombing more people.
Climate change bill. Yeah, I mean, and yeah, there's just as much empire and war, like the approval of the Israeli apartheid and genocide. Like, there's so many things that the Democrats don't deliver on while the Republicans do for their base, that it makes their base enthusiastic to vote for them. And the Republicans keep pitching that the other side is evil incarnate, right? That if the Democrats get in charge, like, they're going to corrupt your children and destroy America and hate God. While the Democrats are regularly pitching that, we can work with these people, and we missed a strong Republican Party that wasn't crazy, and blah, 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 blah. Like, one party is making the other side an existential threat, while the other party is arguing whether MAGA Republicans are bad or if it's the whole party. Democrats are the moderate liberal, just like MLK described, is the true enemy, because they're very slowly waddling us into fascism, right? Like, they're not delivering on any of their promises. They're not actually promising anything, even in this new election. I can't think of one thing Joe Biden that he's promised so far. It's fundamentally different than Donald Trump.
Yeah. Could that be real quick? And I was actually wondering this, could just be he's not really campaigning yet and hasn't really tried to dive into it, whereas Trump just has all fucking day to do whatever the hell he wants, aside from sitting in courts.
They're worried that he doesn't have the energy to campaign. Like, look at him.
I don't think he does. It terrifies me.
Plus, I think that they are resting on their laurels, just like Hillary Clinton did in 2016. I think they think there's no way Trump can win, especially if he gets convicted, and I think they're wrong. I think that Donald Trump could easily win a re-election. The man who just said 48 hours ago, as of recording this, that he'll only be a dictator on day one. Yeah,
just for one day.
Awesome.
Yeah. Close the border. He's going to kick out all the communists. So, fun fact: this show's straight up going to end, and me and Andrew are going to peace out to. I'm going to Brazil.
Getting the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
I
gotta.
But no, I mean, like, what happens is that the Republicans deliver on their promises that they make, even though those promises are vile, horrible, racist, sexist, warmongering, right-wing fascistic policies. And the Democrats preach, center left to liberal to sometimes leftist policies, and then never deliver on them. And so what happens is the base of one party is enthusiastic to vote and the base of the other party is not. And while even if we have the majority, that means we don't have the turnout that we need to win elections a lot of the time, especially in midterms.
Yeah.
People aren't enthusiastic. People aren't. They don't believe that the Democratic Party is going to bring about real change. So while they'll never vote for a Republican, they don't vote at all. They just don't show up, and we lose.
Yeah.
Now, if you could have people inspired, I'm sure the Democrats could win,
but they
35, 40 states. Like we could take back the Senate and the House by huge margins, maybe super majorities in some cases, at least with the House. But the fact is nobody that we need is going to show up to vote if they don't feel like voting is important.
Yeah.
And running on the other guy is really bad has been the Democrats' main policy since the George Bush era, since Reagan era, really.
Yep.
And it's not enough anymore. We need to run on a big set of policies that actually change things for the better materially for a lot of Americans.
Yeah.
And then deliver on them.
Republicans specifically, to the point of Democrats aren't promising anything. They're just running on MAGA bad and that's it. Republicans, this is, again, why we're getting into why they actually win, because they do make promises. And like Andrew said, they do deliver. I mean, when Paul Ryan was in charge, they delivered that huge tax cut for their base that screwed over the country and is going to cause probably a major recession in 2028, which is the trickle-down effect. The trickle-down effect does work, except when it's completely killing the economy. But they got that through under Trump. They got a whole bunch of other things through. They tend to be more favorable when it comes to national security, just based off this poll from, I forgot who this is from, but
I just want to say,
Gallup.
They got 3 Supreme Court justices
yes.
in. They packed the court essentially. One of them being
not just
erroneous
Supreme Court, other courts too, lower courts.
They've packed the entire court throughout the country,
out of the courts.
Appellate and smaller courts. They got out of the Paris Climate Accords. They ended the Iran
deal.
Nuclear
they had
deal. The tax cuts the biggest tax cuts in history for the wealthy and the rich. They regularly gutted the EPA and a lot of environmental programs.
They got rid of the Consumer Protection Agency
and industry. And it's just Donald Trump promised all this horrible shit and delivered on the horrible shit. But you know what he promised to deal with Obamacare? Something better for everyone. Never delivered on that. We were in Infrastructure Week for 30 weeks.
I remember Infrastructure Week. That was long.
I'm not saying that Republicans don't deliver on their promises, because they do lie about things that they're promising.
Sure.
I'm saying that they deliver what their base wants.
Yes,
what their base cares about. They don't deliver on. They'll promise you the moon and back, saying, "Oh, we'll give you better health care than Obamacare, even though we don't have a plan. Oh, we'll deal with the economy going bankrupt. It's always cut taxes to the rich. That's their only plan.
Yeah,
we'll deal with the big banks by regulating them less. But they deliver to the shit that their base cares about, which is racism, sexism, and warmongering.
Yeah. 56% of Americans, according to Gallup, prefer Republicans, view Republicans as unfavorable, versus 58% of Americans view Democrats as unfavorable. So the Democrats are just a little bit of a hair ahead. Both of these parties suck, and we deserve better parties. And that's why almost, 40% on one side, and 40%, I guess 40% overall of 60%, maybe on average, of people probably view these, in realistic terms, these parties as absolute dog shit. Because look at the people that are constantly running. I mean, I heard a quote, and I'll get more into these numbers in a second, from, of all people, and he's gone now, I believe, at this point, not Mitch McConnell, if only, Kevin McCarthy, who just resigned after they passed the budget that he originally was going to shoot for. This is months ago at this point. It's silly, but in case you forgot, they passed this stupid budget thing through that Kevin McCarthy had already fought for, and that they had kicked him out over, and why he got fired, and Mike Johnson pushed it through. So, McCarthy's like, peace, I'm out, I'm going to go be a lobbyist. Yeah, all of that was for literally nothing. But there was a quote of him I heard saying, when I look at the I sat down as speaker, and the Democrats stand up and the Republicans stand up. When the Republicans stood up, they look like America. We look like the most exclusive country club in America. And I'm like, yeah, you guys are a one-trick pony while still somehow winning all of the time by I really don't get it, other than promising little things here and there that don't ever really get through, that maybe, and maybe this is just another use of perfect propaganda where they inflate the thing that they're promising them. Like, it'll be good for you, average Joe, when it really won't be good for them at all. It won't affect them at all. Any of these like tax cuts. They say, oh yeah, we're going to cut taxes. I'm like, you're not going to cut taxes on the plumber who's voting for you, the, random desk worker who's voting for you, the blue collar person who's voting for you. That's not how it works.
Economic policy, which the economic policy is whatever their donors want, which is lower taxes on both corporations and the mega rich. Like, that is what they really have. That's their only real economic plan, is less regulation and lower taxes. Now, they realize they can't win on that. Like, they can get some people to believe that bullshit that, like, it's going to help you by making your boss more rich. But they can't get the majority of people. So what they do instead is they make things up, like migrant caravans that suddenly go away after every election.
That's the next part.
Or
national
race
security
theory. Or the Muslims terrorist attacking your Dairy Queen in Iowa. Like ridiculous shit that's never going to happen. They instead focus on that. Like trans issues. We should be standing up for trans people, but the actual number, of people that are trans in the United States is less than 1%. Yeah. Like, the Republicans are making it acting like
act as if every fourth person is a trans person,
are causing some sort of huge disturbance in society. Yeah. When, barely anyone knows anybody who's trans, and if you do, you're like, oh, another normal human being who just identifies differently. They're focusing on anything that can culturally make people think like, oh, different, whether that's like an immigrant or somebody trans or gay or women or somebody who's sexually active or somebody who's Jewish or somebody who's Muslim, or like anything that they can focus on. Any
sort of other.
Any other is what they're going to make their main policy issue, so that they can get away with cutting taxes to the wealthy, because they know if they deliver on people who are like, ooh, icky, weird, different, and they limit that thing, those people will continue to vote for them because they're standing up for them, right? Yeah. Even though really their main policy is to make rich people more rich.
Exactly.
And the Democrats offer this release valve to people where people can go like, oh, well, I don't want to vote for the horrible people, so I'll vote for the moderately horrible people because I don't want to be associated with the crazies. Yeah. But then there's no party that's actually like, hey, let's fundamentally change the systematic problems that are facing us, whether that's criminal justice or the empire or climate change and the lack of actually doing anything about it, or income inequality or racial justice, or women's body autonomy. There's so many things that we could be fighting for and changing at the systematic and basic fundamental level, but we're not, because one party is this huge reactionary, fascistic party, and the other party is just a way that we can go, oh, well, I'm not the one voting for the fascists, so I guess I'm doing all right. Yeah. But we never have a party or a actual candidate, especially in these bigger office seats like president and Senate, that's running on actually fundamentally changing things, on a constitutional amendment, on rewriting the entire Constitution, on a women's rights act, Equality Act, on ending the empire. There's just so many things that we need to get done if we want our children and grandchildren to live in the greatest country in the world like we did and our parents did. There's so many things we have to act on that are at the level of World War II before, that are at the level of the Cold War, that are at the level of the Revolution and the Civil War, that we're not acting on, and we're just kicking the can down the road and ignoring. And that is, empires fall from within. They don't fall from without. It is us refusing to act, us not building our infrastructure, us not paying people when they need to be paid, our credit not being trusted by the rest of the world, our integrity not being trusted by the rest of the world, that is going to destroy American exceptionalism. So I am begging you, even as somebody who hates nationalism and is not an exceptionalist, if you want the country to be better, we have to beat China in high-speed rail. We have to beat England in healthcare and Canada in healthcare. We have to beat Germany in the economy. We have to build more solar panels. We have to build better technology. We have to have better jobs and better standards of living if we want to be the best. And one party is fighting to make rich people richer at the expense of all of that. And the other party is kind of middling through it, with Joe Biden being its perfect avatar. And Republicans are winning because at least they're fulfilling their promises, even if those promises are, we're going to set the world on fire so that a handful of rich people can be a little richer this quarter. Yeah.
And if that didn't scare you, like it should have, But I guarantee you it didn't enough to make you get out there and go vote for Joe Biden, unfortunately. But Republicans will say any tiny little thing to scare you. So much so that 53% of Americans believe that Republicans are better on national security, with 39% of believing Democrats are good on national security. 57% that's national prosperity. It's 50% of Republicans on national security and 35 on for Democrats. So basically the same numbers. They trust Republicans with terrorism, the military, everything, despite when the military constantly says, hey, we don't need all this money. Republicans say, no, we think you do. And we overspend there, don't spend where we need to be spending. They will say that the big, bad brown people are coming for you. And that's enough to get the olds' asses out of the seats. They're saying the big, scary transes are coming for you. That's enough to get the olds out of the seats and the boomers out of the seats and the Gen Xers out of the seats who still lean Republican. Whereas the majority of the young people and who even lean right don't give a shit about wokeness or anything like that. It's the old people that are high. Like, where's the number? The Republicans, as far as the whole goes, they want 87% want a person with stamina. 59% want somebody that's good on Social Security and Medicare. They want 57% want somebody who's representing the party's future. 54% want someone who opposes woke values, and I just don't get like how these bullshit, and I like, and maybe it's just me being naive, bullshit culture war things can still get the draw out. Like how people are so upset, like on the right, like the big scary browns, the big scary transes and gazes.
You only Fox News all day, and you listen to AM radio on your way to work, and you only talk to your friend group, you know, that's at the bar and at your work, you know, like, because they live in a bubble.
But we live in a bubble too. That's the thing. Objectively, we all can kind of live in a bubble sometimes. And the things we discuss within our bubble are much more horrifying than some immigrant could take my job away. Like, this is democracy could fall. This is people could die. This is like, and it's not enough to get anybody out on our side. The very fact
that you're acknowledging that people have different communication bubbles makes you not in a bubble.
Sure, I understand that, but like
they do not like understand or want to understand like the basic reality for the majority of Americans. They like their suburban lifestyle. They like, you know, being NIMBYs. They like watching Fox News. They like the reality that they've created, and they're not going to open their and a lot of listeners, and you and I both have experience with family members that are this way. They just don't want to hear it. They will ignore you. They will la you. They will say you're lying when you present basic facts to them that everyone in, you know, basic reality can acknowledge, but is not true on Fox News. So it's like, it's because, yes, we may all have our biases and live in our own bubbles, but there's a difference from being behind an iron curtain and living with a malleable bubble. Like, like they don't. Like, this is something that you'll hear from people all the time on the left and the center. But if you look at people who are on the left and the center in multiple polls over the last decade, like they take sources from all over the internet. It used to be magazines. Viewers, listeners, you probably don't know what those are, but magazines, the internet, different shows, different networks. And then you look at people on the right and it's one thing. Like, it's Fox News and Newsmax. Like, that is it. That is it. And they are always going to drum up the culture war issues because they can't talk about the economic ones. They can't justify saying, hey, I know your groceries are going up and gas is going up. All they can do is say, well, it's the Democrats' fault, because they're focused on all these social justice warrior things, instead of saying the truth, like, well, maybe we should get off oil and not let Middle Eastern and Russian cabal like decide how much we pay to get around every day. Maybe it's the uber wealthy that are taking a majority of the new wealth in our country. Maybe your boss CEO's wages have gone up 300 to 3,000% since 1975, and our wages have gone up 5 to 6%. Maybe that's why it's harder to buy groceries. Maybe corporate greed is the reason. But then they would be alienating the very people who pay their bills, whether that be in the media or running for Congress. So, like, these people are in a completely different world that vote for Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to talk to gay neighbors. They don't want to know somebody who's a refugee. They don't go to the coffee shop and hear different opinions. Like, they are in a world that is very safe and secure, and they want to stay in that world. And they would rather hear about things that they think they can prevent and hold on to that power than they would deal with the existential questions of, like, what are we going to do about climate change? Like, what are we going to do about clean water for all of our cities over the next 100 years? What are we going to do about income inequality? What are we going to do about the power that billionaires hold over our system? They don't want to have those big discussions because the answers are scary and hard. Instead, they'd rather say, well, we just got to stop the immigrants. That'll solve all of it.
It's like, so, not to sound... Oh, I don't know what this sounds like, but it's sad. Like, it really bums me out in a simplistic way of, like, think of all the people you won't know because of that weird fear that you have of that trans person's gonna gay marry your dog with a Starbucks cup that doesn't say Jesus on it, or I don't know. That's the craziest right-wing thing I could think of.
I think you just wrote the next SNL bit. That's how much time and effort it takes to write one these days.
Like, here's the last thing we'll end on, just so you know, like, where it
so that I
drops
don't hit
off.
rant 3 and start my head exploding.
Rural Republicans are more pessimistic about the nation's future. Younger Republicans view diversity more positively and are less focused on opposing woke values. And old Republicans prioritize the electability and a candidate's electability, i.e. Trump, and commitment to Social Security and Medicare. So it's such a breakdown, like such an even-ass breakdown of what you would expect. So, you know, I know we got a lot of folks that hate watch this show, and by all means, please do it. And if you are a young con who loves trolling us and calling us pale and fat or whatever, like, one, get
if
better
you're rich
material.
Or attractive and you hate us, give me a call.
Yeah, do that
I'd love
too.
to talk to you.
He's got a weird crush on Lauren Boebert. So if Lauren, if you're watching, don't think I haven't noticed. I know you think you can fix her, but I don't think I haven't noticed that crush.
I can fix her. I just want to go to a few musicals together. Like, what's the deal?
No, but if you are a young person,
Tim doesn't let me
viewing
vape
this
on the podcast. I can vape with Lauren. Well, it's a match made in heaven.
Again, and I'll get this statement out. If you're a young person, like, your side wants to demonize your friends. Any gay friend you have. Hell, you could be a gay Republican. Guess what? The GOP as a whole don't like you. They just don't. They will not ever fight for you. You will be that last one there that when all of them were gone, no one fought for me kind of a thing. And I'm sure as a young con, you're well versed in World War II history for different reasons. But, you know, we
want to play Hearts of Iron 4?
Let's play some Warhammer and not understand what it's about. But fight for your generation, young people watching this. The Xers and Boomers, if you're watching this, you're a lost cause to me in a sad, unfortunate way. If you're leaning right, you are. But the young ones, the young folks out there, please vote your conscience this time. You're not going to get any money out of the GOP. They're fighting for these tax cuts and all these things that you think you like, that, oh, they make the stock market do well. Okay, how much money do you have invested in the stock market? None? Oh, if you do, cool. But none as an 18-year-old young con who posts TikToks about, you know, with a MAGA flag in the background and blah, 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 blah. You are better than this. Vote your conscience. Vote in something better than the fascism that you think you want because it looks cool, because you're sad and you want a little bit more power because someone along the way, some bully took that away from you. Like, you're better than this. So that's my little moralistic, hopeful spiel to you, with hope that maybe that will change a mind. I know of a few people out there whose mind our show has changed. Like, and has turned them away from the more MAGA end of the spectrum and have taught them things. So don't think I don't see you out there. But
we're demagnifiers.
We want to demagify you. So in general, you know, That's it.
I'll demagify you in a bed. I'll demagify you on a train. I'll demagify you on a plane.
Thank God we're so far into the episode. Republicans, moral of the story, Republicans are very good at winning because they promise big, deliver sometimes, and the Democrats don't promise or deliver on anything. And that'll be the next in this, series of main episodes that we have, that the Democrats aren't good at winning anything, and until they are. But there's 1 to 2 things that can make them shoot across the aisle. And we'll talk about that next time. It's Abortion and Weed. Okay, bye. America the Conversation is a production of Shway Media and America the Podcast. The show was created and is hosted by Andrew Turner and Tim Philippi.